go.
There you go. There you go. Hey, Manasquan Reservoir. I'm Bob Murray, Delaware Valley Outdoors. Stay tuned. It's going to be a good one. Woo, yeah, baby. I love when a plan comes together, my friend.
Certainly did.
Delaware Valley Outdoors, your best source for fishing information on TV, radio, and the internet.
There's a little one.
Come here, fishy. I want you nice. There you go.
Yeah, that's right. Right, now let's just talk a little bit. This is a small fish, but it's the males that are coming up on here, am I correct?
Correct. They always seem to come up first. They have to create the beds, get the situation, the home life right for the females to go ahead and move up and
right. So
reproduce.
You'll see smaller fish like this, but they're males, and they'll come up and start making the beds in this really shallow area, right?
Definitely. The reason I'm using this buzzbait, Bob, this time of the morning with the wind the way it is, a little chop on the water, it's kind of overcast. It's really been a successful bait for years, not only here, but just about anywhere you find these conditions where they exist. Nice little chop. You don't want too much. It's got to be something they can see, but not get a good shot of being able to tell what it is.
Yeah, once that wind breaks that surface tension up,
right,
it attracts them, but they don't know what it is. They're going to hit it.
If they can see it too well in flat water, then they get a good idea that that's not what they're used to seeing and what they want to feed on. But in conditions like this, they're seeing the motion and hearing the motion, not really getting a good eye contact.
Oh, boy, there's another hit. Water temperature, right? Everybody will give you their temperature for a buzz bait.
Right.
What's your temperature that you'll start throwing?
I would say 60 degrees for me is where I start picking up a buzz bait. And it'll go on. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, when it gets too warm, they want to back off of it. I have found that it works right up into the fall until it gets back below 60 again. So I'll stay anywhere in the range that it's 60 or above.
And again, like you had mentioned, we have a kind of a perfect kind of a day for us fishermen. It's not, we don't want that bright sunshine on us because that, that'll kill us.
Yep.
But we got this cloud cover with a little bit of sun and the clouds coming through, and it's actually prime to throw a buzz bait or some of the spinner bait, stuff like that, because we just have the actual perfect condition that you really want. A little bit of sun, a little bit of cloud in and out. It really does great for the conditions.
It certainly does.
Tell us what we have here. We have a flat and there's a drop off, or what?
Well, here in this little cove, we're actually sheltered somewhat. I guess you could call it a feeding shelf, a spawning bay. It's both. And then as we move out here, being only 3 to 4 feet deep, moves out, it drops off. The first gradual drop would be to about 7 feet. Beyond that, it goes into the teens. If you go further than that, there's a little rise before you actually hit the original creek that produced this reservoir.
And those fish will just move back off, I guess, onto the first drop off right now. So what we might have to do is actually work our way out if we don't wind up catching any fish, and let them tell us what to do.
That's how daring we want to be, because after we hit that first one, we're going to be exposing ourselves to the wind. Right. And if you plan on spending the day fighting that wind, will certainly use up your trolling motor. This is an electric-only lake, and at times it's very windy.
Yeah, you actually not fish the actual structure, but you got to fish the wind here.
Yes.
But I've been throwing this soft plastic bait, and you had the buzz bait on. Now you jumped over to the soft plastic bait. But what do you got on there now? What do you got?
Well, I'm adding some Mega Strike. It's an amino acid based enzyme, and As you said, I was using the buzzbait, but now you see the water has flattened out. The sun's come out a little, so I'm going to join you, and you've been quite successful using the soft plastic. I'm going to do it as well, and hope I can increase my productivity here.
Yeah, one of the things that we've talked about scents over the years, attractants and stuff like that.
Right.
But the technology and the research that Bob has gone into that stuff is that it really does make a difference in sometimes of just having that fish hold on to that bait, and I don't even say a second, but that little bit more to give you the actual time, right?
Oh, definitely. As you were saying, attracting is one thing, and well, yes, it does have some attracting qualities, but what it seems to do is exactly as you were saying, is it allows you to know the fish is there. Many times we've probably had a fish on the line and he didn't like it. Within a 20th of a second, in and out of his mouth it goes. With this, he seems to hold on to it a little bit longer, enough to give you the indication to let you set that hook.
Yeah.
Bob, I took us out of the wood, brought us out here to this point. What we have here is a sandbar that extends from the shoreline out about 200 yards. The water depth on top of that sandbar is only a couple of feet, maybe 3 at maximum. But on either side of it, the water depth plunged to about 10 to 17. What it makes is, or what it produces, is sort of a food shelf for the fish. With the wind blowing the direction it is right now, it's blowing the water towards us. It's also blowing the bait fish and the food to the bass or whatever you might be, whatever predator you might be fishing for at that particular time. I found it to be quite productive in here.
So we got a big flat that comes out here, or the point that comes out. I can see the sandbar in front of us, and then it drops off. How far does it drop off on each side?
Oh, to about 17 feet.
So it really has a good drop off.
Oh, yes.
So the fish will lay back out here and then move up the feed, and then they'll come down.
They're waiting for lunch to be brought to them.
Right.
They're waiting for it to serve right across the top of that.
They'll be facing that way, so we want to bring our baits towards them.
Whoa, I got one. Here he comes.
There you go. There you go. Talk about multi-species here. Got a little crappie. Woo! It's a nice sized crappie.
Yeah, they have just about every variety you could possibly want.
When you get a mess load of them, you can have some good eating, you know it?
Yeah. There's people out here all the times just targeting this fish.
Now, that fish came on a little Senko or something.
Senko.
Yeah. Look at the color in it. Isn't that pretty?
Gorgeous fish.
Yeah.
Bob, I'm going to move us closer up to the shoreline up here. See all this clutter up against the shore? Reason being that, well, the sun is up a little, it's warmed up a little today, and the water temperature, the shallows, it rises quicker than it will out here. And we have a chance of getting a few that might have gone ahead up there and enjoy the comfort.
Yeah, because the water temperature, it's, what do we have water temperature here?
62 right now.
62, so you figure that the fish are going to move up. We got a sun's breaking up through the clouds. It's going to add a little bit of heat to the water.
There's one.
Oh, it's a nice one. It's a nice one. Come here.
Here he is.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Thank you.
Roy, you had just mentioned that we're going to move up a little bit right here. And you like to call them like that, don't you?
Oh, certainly.
Tell us exactly what you did.
Well, I moved us closer to the shoreline. And if you look at the temperature, it actually went up a degree or two. And the fish seem to have moved up to take advantage of that temperature. And here, if you look, we have the emergent lily pads. They haven't come up quite yet, but gee, I guess that the fish find that as a comfortable home, a place to be.
Nice fat belly on it.
Oh yeah, she's getting ready.
Yeah.
That's why she's up in here.
Again, that's important to remember. Again, a temperature change of 1 or 2 degrees is very, very important to remember. And again, we were out farther. You mentioned let's go up on there and see if water temperature did come up, and you threw the worm in there, and boom, you actually saw the fish come up and
Yes, it did.
And go at it.
Uh-huh.
Good. All right, let's get that one back in and let's catch some more. Oh, that's a nice fish. Roy.
Thank you.
Nice fish.
We're going to, you know, as time goes on, the day goes on, the sun rises, the temperature changes, the wind shifts. Well, the wind shifted for us today, and we're going to try this shore right here. It's a wind-blown bank. It's a little warmer. The warmer water has been blown into it. We're going to cast up into the shallows, and we're going to pull it back into the deeper water. It's about 13 feet where the boat's sitting right now, and as you can see, right there next to the shore, it's less than a foot.
Right.
I'm sure that water is nice and warm for them. We're getting a temperature reading of only 63.5 degrees right now on the surface.
Well, that's the thing, that the wind's pushing that warmer water just a little bit up here. And the fish, since we have a good drop-off really close, it's one of the best things you can really look for in a combination, because the fish have deep water for their, you know, for their safety.
Right.
You know, but yet they can come up and feed. And we don't have a lot of wood in front of us here, but we got isolated cover, which is probably one of the best things you can look for in the situation. Now, I know you're throwing a spinnerbait, bringing it out and letting it slow rolling it down, and I just have a creature bait on, and what I'm doing is I'm pitching to the base of those trees, but yet I'm bouncing it down to see where those fish are. Are they up near the shallows, or are they out here? So we got two search baits going on here right now, where you can. We're going to find out whether they want that faster presentation, or whether they want the slow presentation of me with this this creature bait. Well, is there much grass grow in here, or do they keep it pretty much grass free?
Well, until recently, they actually treated this water trying to keep the grass at a minimal. But as I guess they've gotten more familiar with what's needed as a good fish habitat, they've allowed the grass to go ahead and take root. Now you're finding pockets of grass, beautiful green grass, growing throughout, and it seems to have really helped produce a better fishery.
Yeah, so they've stopped actually.
They actually stopped the chemical treating of the water. The water, as you see, has a greenish tint to it now. It's still very clear.
Oh, yeah, this is
but
really...
it has a beautiful tint to it, and it's actually produced a lot better fish catch. During these pre-spawn times, Bobby, I find that, you know, the fish will hold tight to this wood and this cover. And you really have to really cover each and every square inch of it. And the best technique I've found has been pitching or flipping in the soft plastics.
Yeah, like, and that's why I think the Senkos and all the little plastic stick baits and the creature baits too have really made a difference, because you can pitch them in. And one of the things that you know is the fact that you got to hit that piece of wood from every different angle, and not just one or two times, because a lot of times you really almost almost aggravate the fish, or just to get the fish's attention, because a lot of times they'll know that something's there, but they won't be able to see it, and they'll start swimming to where it's at. But if you don't go back to it, they've lost contact with it, so they don't have a reference point. But if you keep going back to that same spot and pitching it, you'll find that the fish will finally be able to hone in on it. And a lot of times, you know, it's the angle, right?
The angles are a real key ingredient. They're very important. There's a shady side, then there's going to be a sunny side, and you really can't tell all the time consistently where the fish is going to position himself, what he's looking for, what he's looking at.
Right, so it's important to take, I mean, that's the thing with it in a situation we're here, is that we have so much cover here, but you really have to take your time and slow down, because the water's cold, the fish are in a pre-spawn positioning where they may move up, they may move back, but they're not really that aggressive yet. Water temperature's still cold for them, that you really want to place that bait in front of their nose, and a lot of times that's where you're going to get your hits. So I know everybody says talk about pitching and flipping, but you really have to be able to pick your targets. And if you do put it right by them, instinctively they'll come out and hit it. If they don't like it, usually they'll just spit it out. But if you have a hook in it, you might be able to set a hook. So again, you really have to look at some of this stuff and really pull it apart.
You know, Bob, one of the important things, one of the important pieces of equipment you really have to have when you're fishing conditions like this, a lot of wood and a lot of cover, is a good strong line. I prefer using braided line myself. You know, I use Power Pro, that's my choice, but you really need something that can move. When you set the hook on that fish, you can move that fish. Something a little stretch as possible and a lot of abrasion resistance.
Yeah, because really, abrasion resistance is not the word that we actually need here. This is like using saws out here. There is so much wood and cover that we actually are going over that, you know, you got to have a good line, because I know we're pitching to a lot of junk. You know, you can see what's on top, but underneath there's like twice as much stuff under there. So when you hang a fish, and you know, the possibility of hanging a 5-6 pound fish in here is not that unlikely. You really have to move that fish out. So you really do want some powerful line in there.
Yeah, definitely. So like we said, with as little stretch as possible, because once you set that hook, if he can find his way under something, he will.
Right.
You can't give him that little inch.
Right, because what we have just in front of us here with the log we have, you might throw over top of that log and there's a fish on the other side. Now you got to get him over that. So you got to really set the hook and really keep the fish moving. You can't really dilly-dally with the fish. You know, that's important. If we were out farther, you know, out on the edges there, you got clear water then, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, clear water is a different condition completely. With this, as we say, you're going to be playing a contact sport.
And you know, one of the things, and it's happened to me, and I know it's happened to you, you're concentrating on fishing, you're running your spinnerbait over top of something, I'm throwing a thing, and you get a couple hits, you think, you don't retie.
Oh, yes.
Very important, am I right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's something you have to do. I find with the braided, it's a little more forgiving. I can get away with it, go a longer time length between the ties, but I've always had that problem. I've had to hang up a fish and there goes the line.
Right, and you know that we've hit a limb, I've hit sticks and stuff like that. So, and again, even if you don't have to retie, but at least run your fingers down that last 18 inches to check it, because you might not even lose it on a fish, but you might lose it on a limb or something like that.
Oh, there's a good one.
Well, Roy, we're here at the tackle box section of the show, and you know, springtime fishing is difficult at best because we have cold weather fronts coming through, we have wind, we have pre-spawn bass going in, so it takes an arsenal of things to actually find out what in God's name the fish are going to do and tell us what to do. But on this lake, I know this is one of your favorite lakes to fish, you do have some baits that you would recommend to fish. Now we're talking about crankbaits for springtime fishing. Now you got to be careful around here because we do have the wood, so we don't want real deep divers, right?
Right, definitely.
So okay, this bait here, I have this one here. Tell us a little bit about that one.
That's an Excalibur. That's a fat-free shad variety. It dives 6 to 8 feet depending on the line you're using, but it's also very buoyant. So now I constantly use, or I do use, a reel and relax, reel, retrieve, let go. So I don't take it to its maximum of 8 feet if I'm not in 8 feet of water. That'll bring it back up and kind of give it a suspending action. And that seems to work well for me.
One of the things that guys worry about too, it's got a lot of hook, got a lot of wood, but in this lake, you can basically get a lot of your lures back in here. Now you could have a plug knocker or something like that, and just popping it off. But you do want to have contact with the wood. Am I correct?
Oh yes, definitely. You know, you're not going to catch the fish unless you're willing to make that risk. You got to take that risk. You're going to go in there where they're living and present your bait.
And you want this bait to knock off of the wood and deflect and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Okay. Now I guess this bait here is a universal bait, but it's a good one for this lake. Tell us about this one.
Once again, this is an Excalibur series. This is a fat-free shad version. This is the fry. It's a little smaller version, and if you notice, the bill's shaped just a little different. And again, this one will dive about 6 feet, 4 to 6 feet. And depending on the water depth, I work it the way it's needed.
Okay, now, Senko, Super Sinkers, that whole group there that really have come on the market in the past couple of years have really changed a lot of the way people fish. I mean, when we even talk about wacky style, I mean,
right.
I mean, people don't really realize that. It's a little hard to fish at wacky style in this set of circumstances because we have so much wood that is really
right.
there. But this bait here, tell us a little bit about this one here.
This again is a Senko, as you mentioned. It's one of the Gary Yamamoto series, and I Texas rig it and Tex pose it. I want the hook tip covered because of the reasons you mentioned. There's so much that it could get caught on. So I let it, it's a free falling bait. I rig it weightless. I want it to go down at its own rate, and it seems to have an action that the fish are really attracted to. When it's Texas rigged, it seems to go down horizontal sometimes, other times, or even all at once, it might decide it wants to go down and flutter. And it seems to drive the fish crazy. You don't have to impart much action on your own. Most of the action's in the bait.
Right, and the density of this is really what makes it fall through that water column. Right. There's a lot of salt and additives in here that really just take it around. Now, why red though? I mean, what's
well,
red? When
I first started fishing, probably like many people out there started fishing, the first plastic or first artificials around we were using were the worm variety, were red, black, what they call the natural worm color, or purple. And I was successful with them then. I find I'm still successful. I've tried other colors, and when they don't seem to work, I've put on the red, and gee whiz, I've gotten a fish.
People who know me, I always tell them that in the springtime I throw a red spinnerbait all the time, and that's one of the reasons right there. This bait here.
Well, there's a lot of flash and color to that. As you saw, the water is relatively clear here, and their natural forage here would be things along the lines that we've already seen. A shad imitation, because there's plenty of shad available for them. Then you'll see a lot of brim or sunfish and perch. Well, this seems to imitate a lot of the things you find here. The carp has the gold, the shiner has the gold. Seems to work well for me.
Okay, and this is Yamamoto.
This is also a Yamamoto Senko. This is a 5-inch variety.
Okay, and the color, what color is there any special color to this? Or do you just call it gold?
You can look in his chart. There's a million, at least a couple of hundred colors that he has. I just call it that gold flash.
All right, now here we got another one with a little bit of flash in it. What's this one here?
This is a pearl white. And again, this is a Gary Yamamoto 5-inch. And it has the same characteristics of the fall that the others that we presented have. But again, it's a white color, resembles a lot of the forage that they see, and it's quite visible to me. If I can see it, I'm sure that they can see it, since their eyesight is much better. And a lot of the shallow areas we're working in the wood, you won't even see the strike, but you will see the movement of the bait if you can keep your eyes on it. You'll actually see it being sucked in, and you know then it's time to get ready to set the hook.
Now, you're using 5-inch. I went down to a little 4-inch worm today. I kind of like them. This is a yum bait. I just like it. Obviously, you can see it's got a ton of salt on it, but I went for a little bit of a contrast because we got a little bit of water stain out there. The wind was whipping it up a little bit. So I went to that, and we caught fish on this certainly. Also. But again, I like that little bit of contrast sometimes. I definitely throw the other ones, but the contrast is really good with the plastics. All right, we still have to throw spinnerbaits. I throw spinnerbaits all the time. Now, this spinnerbait I have here is it's kind of an interesting spinnerbait. Tell us a little bit about it.
This is a secret weapon, and it's available on the market now. And what it does is it allows you to change the blades quickly. What you're looking at right now with the teardrop shape, you're looking at a Colorado blade. You can change it immediately if you needed to. It's a quick clip. To go ahead to the combination there, we have a willow and a Colorado. And I find that if I want to flutter, if I want it to drop behind the wood, the Colorado's the way to go. If I want to drag it through the wood and keep it from getting caught, definitely a willow design is what you want to go with.
A couple of things we got to really have to mention. We were using some Mega Strike today. I've used this stuff, you used this stuff. It was kind of, we both pulled out our own tubes of Mega Strike, so we knew what we were doing. Tell us just quickly why you do it.
Well, I'm a religious user of it. It's proven itself to me. Mega Strike is an attractant. There's a lot of attractants out there on the market. Well, there's no claim that this is going to bring a fish from far away to your bait. But what it has done for me, it's proven itself to me, is if a fish picks up my bait, it will hold it longer. This actually has the element of taste for a fish. A lot of the other attractants, well, they appeal to the human sense. Oh, you can smell the garlic, you can smell the other, whatever the aroma might be, but the fish can't actually taste that. Because of their physiology, they're not able, their taste receptors won't take that. This has an enzyme in it. It has the actual amino acids of their prey, of their forage. So when they take it in their mouth, that little bit of taste will let them hold on just long enough for me to know that they're there. I can get that indication and set the hook.
And that's really important. Two of these little baits. Tell us about these crankbaits.
Well, in springtime, I'm sure most of the avid fishermen know that you want to throw some rattle traps in the shallow waters, and people are quite aware of that, and they do quite often. Well, I've gone a little step further. I've gone to the ambush stealth diver here. It comes in both versions, a rattle and a non-rattle. I really like them. They're lightweight. They don't seem to get hung up in the wood as much. And there's an added attraction to them is the fact that they have a hole running through the length of them, which actually allows the water to go through them, which imitates the sound of the bait fish. So there is an additional sound, not just the rattle we're so used to hearing.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And it gives a vibration to the water so they can trace it down.
One more thing that we talked about all this stuff. It has to go in the water, but it has to go across all of that wood. And tell us just a little bit about the line that you really would recommend out here.
Well, I myself prefer braided line in these conditions. There's no substitute for it for me. When you catch a fish out here, you want to hook him, you want to turn him, you want to get him headed towards the boat as soon as possible. You don't want him in that wood. And another thing is you want the line to be ready to take on that task. It can't be braided, it can't have been gnawed or hit on some of these pieces that you've thrown over. You don't want to spend your whole day tying. So I'm into braided. This is Power Pro that I'm using here. It stays round, it doesn't mesh down on the reel. And as I say, it's a non-stretch line, gives you a good, quick, hard hook set. If I want to have some give to it, I use a lighter tipped rod. I let the line stay strong and tight. I don't have to worry about throwing over that wood, around that wood, or if he happens to get hung up into that wood, I can hold him there and bring the boat to him.
And get it over. And that's the tackle box. Roy, I want to thank you an awful lot for taking us out here on Manasquan Lake. It's been a pleasure. We had a lot of fun today. Hey, you got to come over to Manasquan Reservoir. It's a great fishery. Just learning how to structure fish is just something that you have to do. If you want more information about Roy and his services, go to our website, DelawareValleyOutdoors.com. We have a link over there. You can talk to Roy about all the places he goes. Go to our website, get all our fishing reports, and go to our radio show now. It's a podcast. It's really cool. Hey, I'm Bob Murray. I'll see you on the water. All right, pal, let's go catch some fish.